Commander Peter Nash stood at the observation deck of the Earth ship Silent Dawn, watching the gleaming spires of Centauri Prime grow larger as they approached. The alien city sprawled across the planet's surface like a web of silver and gold, its buildings reaching toward the purple sky. 50 years had passed since humans first met aliens, but this moment felt just as important as that first contact. "Commander, the Galactic Council is ready to receive us," said Lieutenant Amy Baker, her reflection appearing in the reinforced glass beside him. She wore the simple gray uniform of the Earth Defense Force, its only decoration a small silver Earth emblem on the collar. Peter nodded, straightening his own uniform. "How are our systems?" "All running perfectly, sir. Our dampeners are hiding everything they're supposed to hide." Amy's lips curved into a slight smile. "The aliens still think we're using basic fusion drives." The Silent Dawn looked plain and unimpressive from the outside. That was exactly how Earth wanted it. Hidden beneath its simple hull were technologies that would make even the most advanced council races stare in disbelief. But today wasn't about showing power. It was about preventing a war. The ship docked at the council's massive space station. Peter led his team through the airlock. Amy Baker, Dr. Kevin White, their science officer, and security chief Lisa Brown. They all looked ordinary, just simple humans in simple uniforms. No one would guess that their clothes contained quantum-linked emergency teleporters. A group of aliens waited for them. The Draconians stood in front, their scaled bodies covered in ornate robes. Behind them were the other council races, the crystalline Lumini, the four-armed Quatra, the floating Aetheri, and others. The Draconian leader, Supreme Commander Zixtal, stepped forward. His golden scales gleamed under the station's lights. "Welcome, humans," Zixtal said, his universal translator making his words sound slightly mechanical. "We are pleased that you finally accepted our invitation to visit the council properly." His tone suggested he was talking to children who had been avoiding their homework. Peter bowed slightly, exactly the right amount to be polite but not submissive. "The Earth Defense Force thanks you for your hospitality, Supreme Commander." They walked through grand hallways decorated with artworks from 100 worlds. The Draconians pointed out everything like tour guides showing cavemen their first city. Peter noticed how they always mentioned the technology behind each marvel, carefully watching the humans' reactions. "This gravity control system is quite advanced," Zixtal said, gesturing at a floating garden. "Perhaps in a few centuries, your people will understand how it works." Amy caught Peter's eye, and he saw her fighting back a smile. The Earth Defense Force had developed better gravity control systems 30 years ago, but they just nodded politely and looked impressed. The council chamber was enormous, with seats for representatives from every spacefaring race in the galaxy. The human delegation sat in small chairs near the back, where new species were always placed. Peter activated his hidden quantum scanner, checking for weapons or traps. He found plenty of scanning devices aimed at them, but nothing dangerous. "Honored Council," Zixtal began, his voice booming through the chamber. "We gather today to discuss the human situation. Their civilization has reached a crucial point. They have basic space travel and have started colonizing their solar system. But their development is concerning." Images appeared in the air, showing Earth's cities, ships, and space stations, everything the Council had been allowed to see. "They still fight among themselves," Zixtal continued. "They build weapons when they should focus on peace. They resist sharing their resources with more advanced civilizations who could guide them." He turned to stare at Peter. "They need our help, whether they want it or not." Peter stood up slowly. He had practiced this moment many times. "Supreme Commander, Earth appreciates your concern, but we are capable of managing our own development." Zixtal's scales rippled with amusement. "Are you? Our studies show you've barely mastered fusion power. Your ships still use chemical rockets for some tasks. You have no quantum technology, no dimensional physics, no proper AI systems. How can you possibly know what's best for your species?" Several council members nodded in agreement. The Lumini representative sparkled with what looked like pity. The Quattro delegate was taking notes with all four hands. "We learn from our mistakes," Peter said calmly. "Humanity's history has taught us valuable lessons." "Yes, your history of constant warfare," Zixtal said, "which is exactly why you need guidance. The Draconian Empire has helped many young races develop properly. Under our protection, Earthwold." "I don't believe we need protection," Peter interrupted softly. The chamber went silent. No one interrupted a Draconian Supreme Commander. Zixtal's scales darkened with anger. "You don't understand your situation, Commander Nash. We've been patient with Earth's stubborn independence, but the galaxy is a dangerous place. If you won't accept our help willingly, we may need to be more insistent." Peter stood straighter, letting just a tiny bit of steel enter his voice. "Is that a threat, Supreme Commander? A warning from those who know better?" Zixtal spread his arms, addressing the whole council. "I move that we begin preparing a peacekeeping mission to the Sol system. For humanity's own protection, of course." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Peter activated his quantum communicator, sending a coded message back to Earth. "They're making their move. Prepare Operation Thunderstrike." Amy leaned close to him, whispering, "Should we show them anything?" Peter shook his head slightly. "Not yet. Let them think they have all the power. It's safer for everyone if they don't do anything stupid." He looked around the chamber, at all the advanced aliens discussing Earth's fate like parents planning an intervention for a troublesome child. None of them knew that humans had developed technologies they couldn't imagine, born from centuries of warfare and the desperate drive to survive. Earth's weapons could probably destroy this entire station in seconds, but they wouldn't, because humans had learned another lesson from their violent history. Just because you can destroy something doesn't mean you should. "The council will vote on this matter in 3 days," Zixtal announced finally. "Until then, our human guests will remain here, where we can ensure their comfort and safety." His smile showed too many teeth. Peter nodded politely, but inside he was already planning. In 3 days, the council would learn why humanity had hidden its true power, not because they were weak, but because they were strong enough to be patient. As they were led to their quarters, Dr. White whispered, "Did you see their quantum scanner try to analyze our uniforms? It's still trying to figure out what our teleporters are." "Let them guess," Peter replied quietly. "Sometimes the best defense is letting others underestimate you." Through the quarters windows, he could see Centauri Prime's 3 suns setting, painting the sky in strips of purple and gold. Somewhere out there, Earth's hidden fleets were waiting, their weapons powered down, their true nature concealed. Peter touched the Earth emblem on his collar, feeling the quantum eye inside it analyzing everything around them. 3 days. In 3 days, the council would learn that humans weren't primitive children playing with rockets. They were a race tempered by war, but guided by peace, hiding their strength, not out of weakness, but wisdom. Lisa Brown took first watch while the others rested. As Peter lay in his bed, he thought about Earth's history. All those wars had taught humanity one crucial lesson. True power isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about being strong enough to protect peace, even if that meant letting proud aliens think you were primitive, while their scans missed the quantum battleship hidden in plain sight above their heads. Peter smiled as he drifted off to sleep. Sometimes the best way to prevent a war was to be so overwhelmingly powerful that no one would dare start one. In 3 days, the council would learn that lesson too. Admiral Susan Mitchell stood in Earth's underground command center, watching the massive holographic display that filled the center of the room. Hundreds of alien ships moved through the galaxy map, forming patterns that made her frown. The Draconians were up to something big. "Play that sensor data again," she ordered. The AI system responded instantly, rewinding the last 6 hours of ship movements. Susan's eyes narrowed as she watched Draconian warships gathering at key points around Earth's solar system. Lieutenant Greg Powell rushed into the command center, holding a data tablet. His face was red from running. "Admiral, you need to see this right away. Our spies in the council just sent it." Susan took the tablet, her expression growing darker as she read. The Draconians had already written up documents to take control of Earth's government. They weren't planning to wait for the council's vote. They were going to act now. "Send word to Commander Nash on Centauri Prime," she said. "Tell him to be ready for emergency teleport. Then get me Fleet Admiral Walsh." The quantum communicator hummed to life, projecting Catherine Walsh's image in the air. The Fleet Admiral was already in her combat uniform, standing on the bridge of her hidden command ship beneath the surface of Mars. "You saw the intel?" Catherine asked. Susan nodded. "They're not even trying to hide it anymore. The Draconians think we're so primitive that we can't detect their ships moving into attack positions. Should we power up the defense grid?" "Not yet," Susan said. "Let them think their surprise attack is still a surprise. How many ships do we have ready?" Catherine smiled. "The entire Phantom Fleet is ready to launch. 100 ships that the Draconians don't even know exist. Plus, the quantum barrier network is at full power. They think those are just basic communication satellites." Just then, another alert flashed on the main display. A massive Draconian warship had just appeared near Earth's moon. Its weapons were powered up, but not yet firing. "This is Supreme Commander Zixtal of the Draconian Empire to Earth Defense Force." A familiar voice boomed through the command center speakers. "For your own protection and development, we are assuming control of your world. Disable your primitive defense systems and prepare for boarding." Resistance would be unwise. Susan took a deep breath and pressed the communication button. "This is Admiral Mitchell. We do not consent to this action. Please withdraw your forces immediately." Zixtal's laugh was full of scorn. "You don't have a choice, Admiral. We've scanned your entire system. Your weapons are centuries behind ours. Your ships still use basic metal armor. You don't even have proper shield technology. Submit now, and we'll be gentle with your people." More Draconian ships appeared, surrounding Earth. Their golden hulls gleamed in the sunlight, making quite a show. Susan knew that's what it was, a show of force to frighten the primitive humans. "Last warning," Susan said quietly. "Withdraw your forces." "Or what?" Zixtal asked. "Will you shoot chemical rockets at us? Try to fight our quantum cannons with your primitive nuclear weapons." He sighed loudly. "I had hoped humans would be smarter than this. All ships, prepare tow." "Fleet Admiral Walsh," Susan cut in. "Show them what a real quantum cannon looks like." Deep under the surface of Mars, Catherine Walsh gave the order. Hidden doors in the red planet's surface slid open. The Phantom Fleet rose from its secret bases, their phase-shifted hulls becoming visible for the first time. Each ship was black as space itself, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. What are those?" Zixtal's voice had lost its confidence. "Our scanners didn't detect any ships on Mars." "Of course they didn't," Susan replied calmly. "Your scanners are good, Supreme Commander, but they're not good enough to detect phase-shifted quantum technology. Would you like to see what else they missed?" She nodded to her weapons officer. Around Earth, thousands of small satellites suddenly change. Their simple metal shells vanish, revealing advanced quantum barrier generators. A shimmering field of energy surrounded Earth, far more powerful than any shield the Draconians had ever seen. "Impossible," Zixtal shouted. "You're a primitive species. You don't have this technology. Our studies proved." "Your studies saw what we wanted them to see," Susan said. "Humanity learned long ago that it's safer to hide your strength until you need it. We could have shown you our real technology 50 years ago, but we watched, we waited, and we learned what kind of people you were." On the command ship's bridge, Catherine Walsh raised her hand. Every ship in the Phantom Fleet powered up their weapons. They didn't fire. They didn't need to. The Draconians' own scanners told them what they were facing. Each human ship carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. "These are quantum phase cannons," Susan explained, her voice still calm. "They can fire straight through your shields, as if they weren't there. Your armor is useless against them. We have enough ships to destroy your entire fleet in less than a minute." Silence filled the command channel. Susan could imagine Zixtal's scales turning pale as he realized just how badly he had misjudged the situation. "But we're not going to fire," she continued, "because unlike you, we don't believe in forcing our will on others. Take your fleet and go home, Supreme Commander. Then tell the Council that Earth is not a primitive world that needs guidance. We are a peaceful species that chooses to hide our strength, because we learned that true power comes from knowing when not to use it." For a long moment, nothing moved. The Draconian ships hung in space, their weapons still powered up but not daring to fire. The Phantom fleet waited silently, their black hulls absorbing both light and scanner beams. Finally, Zixtal spoke. His voice had lost all its arrogance. You could have conquered us at any time." "Yes," Susan agreed, "but we didn't. Remember that when you speak to the Council, Earth doesn't want war. We don't want to conquer anyone. All we want is to be left in peace. Can you understand that, Supreme Commander?" One by one, the Draconian ships began to turn away. Their weapons powered down as they formed up around their command ship. Before they jumped to faster-than-light speed, Zixtal sent one last message. We will speak of this at the Council meeting. Perhaps we were wrong about humanity." After the Draconian fleet vanished, Susan let out a long breath. Around Earth, the quantum barrier shimmered quietly, protecting humanity's home. The Phantom fleet moved back to their hidden bases on Mars, vanishing from sight as their phase shift drives engage. "Well done, everyone," she said to her crew. "Send word to Commander Nash. Tell him to be ready for a very interesting council meeting." As she watched the last Draconian ship disappear from their scanners, Susan smiled slightly. Sometimes the best way to win a fight was to be so strong that your enemies realized fighting would be a mistake. Today, the Draconians had learned that lesson. Soon, the rest of the council would learn it too. In her office later, Susan looked at an old picture on her wall. It showed Earth's first contact with alien life, 50 years ago. Back then, humanity had already possessed technology far beyond what they showed the aliens, but they had chosen to wait, to watch, and to learn. "Patience," she said quietly to herself. "That's humanity's real strength." Then she turned back to her work, preparing for whatever challenges tomorrow might bring. Fleet Admiral Catherine Walsh walked through the silent corridors of the underground Mars base, her footsteps echoing off the metal walls. Red dust from the planet's surface had settled in the corners despite the air filters. She liked that. It reminded her that even humanity's most advanced military base was still part of Mars. The command center doors slid open as she approached. Inside, dozens of officers worked at their stations, monitoring the vast network of sensors that watched over the solar system. Lieutenant John Carter looked up from his screen, his face worried. "Admiral, you need to see this," he said, pulling up a holographic display. "Our deep space probes caught something interesting." The display showed a distant sector of space, far from the normal trade routes. Catherine's eyes narrowed as she watched Draconian ships moving in and out of a hidden base. They were loading something onto their warships. "What are those energy readings?" she asked. John zoomed in on one of the ships. "They're quantum weapons, ma'am. But not like anything we've seen before. The Draconians have been holding back too. They'd got technology they never showed the Council." Catherine wasn't surprised. The Draconians had ruled the Council for too long to play fair. "How many ships?" "At least 300, maybe more," John replied. "They're gathering a fleet bigger than anything they've admitted to having. And look at this." He changed the display to show different shipping routes. They've been moving these weapons through secret hyperspace lanes for months, all headed toward Earth. Catherine touched her quantum communicator. "Get me Admiral Mitchell and Commander Nash. They need to know about this." While they waited for the secure connection, Catherine walked to the main viewing window. Through the reinforced glass, She could see rows of Earth's Phantom-class warships resting in their underground hangars. Their black hulls seemed to drink in the light, making them look like holes in reality. The quantum communicator hummed to life, showing Susan Mitchell and Peter Nash in split-screen holograms. Peter looked tired. He was still dealing with the Council on Centauri Prime. "The Draconians are planning something big," Catherine said without preamble. She shared the sensor data with them. "They're not just trying to take over Earth. They want to destroy anyone who resists." Peter's hologram nodded. "That matches what I'm seeing here. The Draconians are pushing for an emergency council session. They're going to try to get permission for a peacekeeping mission to Earth." "They won't wait for permission," Susan added. "Those ships aren't peacekeepers. They're an invasion fleet." Catherine turned to John. "Show them what else we found." John brought up new sensor data. "The Draconians have been testing their weapons on uninhabited planets. They've developed something they call a planet cracker, a quantum device that can tear apart a world's crust." Everyone was quiet for a moment. Even for humans, with all their advanced technology, destroying entire planets was crossing a line. "We can't let them bring those weapons anywhere near Earth," Susan said finally, "or any other inhabited world." Catherine smiled slightly. "That's why I've already launched Operation Thunderstrike. Those Draconian ships aren't the only ones that can hide." She pressed a button, changing the display. Throughout the galaxy, small dots of light appeared, human ships that had been invisible until now. "I've had phantom ships following their fleet for weeks," she explained. "Phase shifted and completely undetectable. The moment they try to move those planet crackers, we'll know." Peter looked concerned. "The Council won't like us having ships in Draconian space." "The Council won't know," Catherine replied, "unless the Draconians force us to reveal ourselves." Again. Just then, alarms started blaring through the Mars base. John's hands flew over his controls. "Multiple ships just appeared at the edge of our solar system. Council signatures." "No, wait. They're fake. It's the Draconian fleet." Catherine's voice stayed calm as she gave orders. "Launch all phantom ships. Activate the quantum barriers around every human world and colony, and get me a channel to their fleet." The Draconian ships emerged from hyperspace in perfect attack formation. Their golden hulls gleamed as they moved toward Earth. Leading them was a massive warship that made the others look tiny. "This is Supreme Commander Zixtal," a familiar voice announced on all channels. "Earth has shown itself to be a threat to galactic peace. We are here to ensure the safety of all species by removing this threat." Catherine stepped forward. "This is Fleet Admiral Walsh. You're violating Council law by bringing planet crackers into a populated system. Stand down your ships immediately." There was a pause, then Zixtal's voice came back, less confident. How do you know about the planet crackers?" "We know everything. Supreme Commander, your secret shipyards, your hidden weapons, the ships you've been gathering for months. Did you think humans would just sit and wait to be attacked?" As she spoke, the Phantom Fleet revealed itself. Hundreds of black ships appeared around the Draconian fleet, their weapons already locked on target. More appeared near Mars, rising from their underground bases. "Impossible," Zixtal shouted. "No one can track phase-shifted ships." "No one except us," Catherine corrected him. "Humanity hasn't been hiding our technology because we're weak. We've been hiding it because we knew someday someone would try something like this." On screens throughout both fleets, tactical displays showed the situation clearly. The Draconians were completely surrounded. Every one of their ships had at least 2 Phantom-class vessels targeting it. "You have 1 hour to turn your fleet around," Catherine said firmly. "Take your planet crackers and go home. This is your only warning." John looked up from his station. "Admiral, the quantum barriers are fully powered. Earth, Mars, and all our colonies are protected, and Commander Nash reports the Council is gathering for an emergency session." Catherine nodded. The next few hours would decide if there would be peace or war, but whatever happened, Humanity was ready. They had hidden their strength for 50 years, waiting and watching. Now it was time to show the galaxy that humans weren't just advanced. They were advanced enough to use their power wisely. As she waited for the Draconians' response, Catherine thought about all the wars in human history that had led to this moment, all the fighting that had pushed them to develop better weapons, better defenses, better ways of protecting themselves. But most importantly, it had taught them when not to fight. "The choice is yours, Supreme Commander," she said quietly. "Show us that the Draconians are wise enough to choose peace." The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance as silence filled the space between their fleets. Whatever happened next would change the galaxy forever. Commander Richard Hayes stood on the bridge of the EDF Nighthawk, watching the massive Draconian fleet through the ship's quantum sensors. His crew worked quietly at their stations, everyone aware that the next few minutes would change history. "Time's up," his second-in-command, Linda Martinez, announced. "The Draconians haven't moved their ships." Richard nodded slowly. He had hoped it wouldn't come to this. Open a channel to all Earth forces. The communication system hummed to life. Throughout the solar system, every human ship and base could hear his words. "This is Commander Hayes. Operation Thunderstrike is now active. All ships, power up your phase shields. Weapon systems to non-lethal settings only. Remember your training. We're here to protect, not destroy." The Nighthawk's engines pulsed with blue light as its quantum systems came fully online. Around it, the rest of the human fleet did the same. Their black hulls began to shimmer as phase shift technology made them partly out of sync with normal space. "Draconian fleet is powering up weapons," Linda reported. "They're targeting Earth's quantum barrier." Through the main viewport, Richard watched the golden Draconian ships move into attack formation. Their weapon ports glowed with energy as they prepared to fire. "Let them shoot first," Richard ordered. "Let everyone see who started this fight." The Draconian ships fired. Massive beams of energy shot toward Earth's defensive barrier. The aliens had brought their strongest weapons, including the infamous planet crackers. The energy blasts hit Earth's quantum barrier and did nothing. "Barrier holding at 100%, Linda said, smiling slightly. "Their weapons can't even touch it." Supreme Commander Zixel's voice boomed through the command channel. "What trickery is this? No shield can stop a planet cracker." "This isn't a shield," Richard replied calmly. "It's a quantum barrier. The energy exists partly in another dimension. Your weapons are powerful, Supreme Commander, but they can only affect things in normal space." He could hear the frustration in Zixel's voice. "You lie. Humans don't have this technology. You're too primitive." "Actually," Richard said, "we developed quantum barriers 30 years ago. Would you like to see what else we've been working on?" He nodded to his weapons officer. "Show them what a real quantum weapon looks like. Target their flagship's engines only." The Nighthawk's main weapon powered up. It made no sound. Sound couldn't exist in the quantum field it created. A beam of pure darkness shot out, passing straight through the Draconian flagship's shields as if they weren't there. The huge alien ship's engines suddenly stopped glowing. What did you do?" Zixtal demanded. "We shifted your engine core slightly out of phase with reality," Richard explained. "Don't worry, it's temporary, but your ship won't be moving for about 6 hours." More Draconian ships fired at the human fleet. Their energy beams passed harmlessly through the phase-shifted hulls. The humans didn't dodge. They didn't need to. "All ships, execute Pattern Alpha," Richard ordered. "Disable their engines and weapons. No permanent damage." The black human ships moved with perfect coordination. They had practiced this thousands of times. Each Phantom-class vessel targeted a Draconian ship, using precise quantum beams to knock out crucial systems. "Sir," Linda called out, "the aliens are trying to call for reinforcements. Their quantum communication systems aren't working." "Of course they're not," Richard replied. "We're blocking their signals. We have been since they entered the system. They just didn't notice until now." Within 10 minutes, the entire Draconian attack fleet hung motionless in space. None of their weapons worked. None of their engines would power up. Even their life support systems were running on backup power. "This is impossible," Zixtel said, his voice much quieter now. "We are the most advanced race in the galaxy. Our weapons can destroy planets. How can you beat us so easily?" Richard looked at the disabled Draconian fleet on his view screen. "Because we learned something from our history that you never did, Supreme Commander. We learned that true power isn't about having the strongest weapons. It's about knowing how to use them wisely." He turned to his communication officer. "Send word to Commander Nash on Centauri Prime. Tell him to show the Council everything that just happened here. And tell Fleet Admiral Walsh that the Sol system is secured." The bridge crew cheered quietly at their stations. They had just defeated the most powerful fleet in known space without firing a single lethal shot. "What happens now?" Zixtal asked. His voice had lost all its arrogance. "Now we wait," Richard replied. "In 6 hours, your ships will return to normal. You can either leave peacefully, or we can demonstrate more of our technology. The choice is yours." He looked out at the stars beyond the disabled fleet. Somewhere out there, the Council was watching recordings of this battle. They would see how humans had defeated the mighty Draconians without killing anyone, without even causing permanent damage to their ships. Linda approached his command chair. "Sir, Fleet Admiral Walsh sends her congratulations. She says the Council is already calling for an emergency session." Richard nodded. "Tell all ships to maintain position. Keep the quantum barriers at full power. This isn't over yet." He thought about all the years humans had spent preparing for this day, all the technology they had hidden, all the power they had kept secret. Today, they had shown just a small part of what they could do. "Send a message to Earth Defense Command," he ordered. "Tell them Phase 1 of Operation Thunderstrike is complete. The Sol system is secure." The Nighthawk's quantum engines hummed quietly as they kept the ship slightly out of phase with normal space. Around it, the rest of the human fleet watched over their disabled opponents. They had won this battle without destruction, without death. That was humanity's real victory. As the 6-hour mark approached, Richard prepared himself for whatever would happen next. Would the Draconians choose peace, or would they force humanity to show even more of their hidden strength? Either way, the galaxy would never see humans as primitive again. The age of hiding their power was over. Now it was time to show the Council what humanity could really do, not just in war, but in peace. Ambassador Mary Cooper walked into the Council chamber with calm steps, even though her heart was beating fast. The massive room was completely full. Representatives from every spacefaring race had come to witness this historic moment. Even species that usually sent only digital avatars had traveled to Centauri Prime in person. Commander Peter Nash stood beside her, wearing his formal Earth Defense Force uniform. They both carried data tablets containing recordings of the battle in the Sol system. The Draconians had tried to hide what happened, but humans had broadcast everything on all frequencies. Every race in the galaxy had seen their victory. Supreme Commander Zixtel stood at the center of the chamber. His golden scales looked dull, and his usual confident pose was gone. The defeat of his fleet had shaken him deeply. "This council meeting will now begin," announced the Lumini representative, her crystalline body glowing with official colors. "We are here to discuss the recent events in the Sol system and the unexpected capabilities of the human species." Mary stepped forward. "Honorable council members, I am here to present evidence of draconian aggression against Earth and to explain why we kept our true technology hidden for so long." She activated the main display system. Images filled the air above them. The Draconian fleet approaching Earth, their weapons firing, and the humans' complete victory without a single death. "For 50 years, we let you think we were primitive," Mary said. "We showed you old rockets and simple ships. We acted impressed by technology we had surpassed long ago. Do you know why?" She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes and sensor organs of each species. because we wanted to see what you would do. Would you treat us as equals, even thinking we were less advanced? Or would you try to take advantage of what you thought was our weakness? Zixtal stepped forward. You deceived us. We protected ourselves, Mary cut in. And we were right to do so. When you thought we were weak, you planned to invade our world. You built planet-destroying weapons in secret. You were ready to kill billions of humans just to maintain your power. The chamber erupted in discussion. Many council members turned to stare at Zixtal. The Draconian Empire had ruled the council for centuries, but they had never admitted to having planet crackers. Show them, Peter said quietly. Mary nodded and changed the display. Now it showed the hidden Draconian bases, the secret weapon tests, the massive fleet they had gathered. The Draconians have been lying to all of you, she continued. They've been building illegal weapons, planning to take control of more worlds. We have proof that Earth wasn't their only target. More images appeared, secret documents, battle plans, lists of worlds the Draconians planned to protect by force. The council chamber grew very quiet. But that's not why we're here, Mary said. We're not here for revenge. We're here to offer a new way forward. She pressed another button on her tablet. The display changed to show Earth's quantum barrier technology, the phase shift drives, the non-lethal weapons they had used. Humanity has developed technology beyond anything in known space, she explained. We could have conquered worlds. We could have ruled the galaxy. Instead, we chose to hide our power because we learned something from our violent past. Peter stepped forward to stand beside her. We learned that having power isn't enough. What matters is how you use it. Earth doesn't want to rule anyone. We want to help protect everyone. Mary smiled slightly. That's why we're offering to share some of our defensive technology with the Council. Not the weapons. We're not that foolish. But the quantum barriers that can protect worlds from planet crackers. The phase shift systems that can help ships avoid collisions. Those we will share. The chamber burst into excited talking. Every race had seen how effective human technology was. The offer to share even part of it was huge. And what do you want in return? Asked the Quattro representative, all four arms moving in patterns of suspicion. 3 things, Mary replied. First, the Draconians must give up their illegal weapons, especially the planet crackers. Second, Earth gets a seat on the Council. A full seat, not a junior position. And third, she paused, making sure everyone was listening. Third, the Council must change. No more letting powerful races bully weaker ones. No more secret weapons. No more threats of force to maintain control. Either we work together as equals, or we don't work together at all. Silence filled the chamber. The Council members looked at each other, at the Draconians, at the humans. They had all seen what human technology could do. They knew this wasn't just a request. It was a chance to change everything. Finally, the Lumini representative spoke. I move that we vote on the humans' proposal, and that we begin with removing the Draconians from their leadership position. One by one, the council members voted. The Draconians watched helplessly as centuries of power slipped away. But they didn't fight. They had learned what happened to those who fought humans. When it was done, Mary watched Zixtal leave the chamber, his once proud head lowered. She felt no joy in his defeat, only hope that he and his people would learn from it. Commander Nash, the Lumini representative said, as the first human to sit on this council, what are your thoughts? Peter looked around the chamber, at all the different species watching him. I think this is a new beginning, not just for humanity, but for all of us. We've shown we have the power to destroy worlds. Now let's show we have the wisdom to save them. Later, as they walked back to their ship, Mary looked at the stars through the station's windows. Do you think it will work? She asked Peter. Real peace, real cooperation. Peter smiled. If it doesn't, they know what we can do. Sometimes the best way to keep peace is to make sure everyone knows exactly how bad war would be. And if someone else is hiding their technology, like we did, then we'll deal with that too, he replied. But for now, let's focus on building something new. Humanity kept its power hidden for 50 years, waiting for the right moment. Now it's time to show the galaxy what we can really do, not just in war, but in peace. The Earth ship lifted off from Centauri Prime, its quantum engines humming softly. Behind it, the Council began its work, changed forever by the humans who had hidden their strength until the perfect moment to use it wisely. As they headed home, Mary thought about all the years of preparation, all the careful planning that had led to this day. Humanity had proved they were the most advanced species in known space. But more importantly, they had proved they were wise enough to use that power for peace. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what humanity had been waiting for.